ABCD!
Hey everybody, just wanted to do a quick review of the optic that I decided to mount on my Bergara rifle. Let's take a look at the contenders now. First contender is the primary arms 3 to 18 50mm first focal plane 308 to 223 reticle. This just didn't have enough magnification for me. Reticle's okay, but to me it's more suited for 3-gun use. Next up was the Athlon Aries BTR 4.5 to 27 by 50mm first focal plane. I did like the reticle. The reviews on this optic were really good, but I did read about mushy turrets, and again, a 50mm objective just wasn't what I wanted. Next up was a scope I was really excited about, the Athlon Aries ETR 4.5 to 30 by 56mm objective first focal plane. I like this reticle. It's cleaner. The turrets are more tactile, but I just didn't want to be an early adopter. I actually ordered this scope, but they were so back ordered that it really woke me up to being an early adopter. So I went for something else. Next on the list was the Leupold VX3i LRP 6.5 to 20 by 50mm first focal plane. Reticle on this thing is just way too busy for me. It's not illuminated, and those turrets are too high, and in looking at reviews, just too complex to work with. Next up was the Vortex Viper PST Gen 2 5 to 25 by 50mm. Liked the reticle, but customer reviews weren't that great on tracking, and limited elevation and windage really affected my decision here. And finally, the Burris XTR2 5 to 25 by 50mm first focal plane. I really like this reticle. It did have a 50mm objective though, and I wanted a 56. And the turrets just look way too confusing when you're trying to track them on the rotations. So I passed on this. All right, let's look at some that weren't even considered in our decision matrix. Bushnell Forge. Worried about longevity of Bushnell itself, and well, not bad, but questionable customer service. The Night Force, I like the reticle, but they only offer higher powers in second focal plane, not first. And the Swarovski, really a second focal plane, not first focal plane in my price range, and only a 42mm objective lens. All right, if you saw my other scope review, then you know that I kind of put a matrix together, and here it is. I include the reticles and then the things that I'm most interested in. I'll zoom in on this in a minute, but these are all of the scopes that I considered for the long-range precision shooting option. So as we go through my decision criteria matrix, really two things started to stand out to me. One was the main objective diameter, and I quickly realized that I wanted a 56mm objective just to gather more light. To go along with a 56mm objective, I wanted a 34mm tube so that light could be transmitted back to my eye. So those really quickly became two of the biggest features that I looked for. Price, yeah, price started out to be the main feature, but as you can see in the comparison here, I actually went a little higher end to get a little better scope in my opinion. You know, some of the other things to look at were the weight, the accessories included, right? There's a throw lever included, the reticle and turrets. This is something to look at, folks. Do the reticle and the turrets match? In some scopes, you're going to look at them, and the reticle may be MOA, but the turrets are in mils. You're going to have to do some translation there, and you don't want that. Exposed or capped turrets, this was not a big deal to me because this isn't 3-gun. This is long-range precision shooting. We're not going to be dragging this thing through the mud like we would in 3-gun. And then elevation, windage adjustments, and the total of both of those was a big deal. Finally, first or second focal plane, I decided to go with first focal plane. There's a lot less calculations involved there, and it's just easier to deal with. There's a lot of videos out there on first focal plane. I suggest you review those. Illuminated reticle was not that big of a deal, but you know with me from the last scope review, the reticle type and the look of the reticle and its simplicity is really a big deal to me on a scope. So why the Steiner? Well, because the one big reason for me was the reticle. It's a very clean reticle. The subtensions are very nicely spaced. It's not confusing. It's not complex. Now, when you look this up on their site, you notice that they haven't labeled the reticle. So I went ahead and did a little bit of labeling here for you, just to show you, what the subtensions look like and everything. This is a first focal plane scope. So as you zoom in, the reticle will get larger and it's just a lot easier to use. Another big reason is those turrets. Very efficient. The numbers change as you rotate the turret, so you're not having to worry about horizontal marks on a turret and which mark you're on to see which rotation you're on. And also some consideration around accessories that were included. We have some flip-up lens caps, not the best, but pretty good. We have a really nice sunshade that was included. It screws right onto the objective lens when you need it. And finally, the throw lever is a really nice throw lever. Works very well. Hey everybody, super excited about the new purchase today. I finally got in my Steiner T5XI 5 to 25 mil dot scope. It's going to go ahead and go on top of my new Bergara B14 BMP rifle, which I just told you about. Now, those of you who know me know that I probably just went through a pretty extensive review of some of the scopes I looked at and why I chose what I chose, similar to the Vortex or the Loophole review I did on my 3-gun scope. My budget was initially $1,000. That was the budget I had for my long-range rifle scope. After reviewing some of the optics in that range and seeing some of the negative reviews about them, I decided to kind of go up above my budget and look for a little better quality. I had actually purchased an Athlon ETR, which is their newest scope out, but they couldn't give me a date on delivery at all. And the more I got to think about it, the more I thought it's a brand new optic. Everyone's had troubles with their brand new optics. Nothing against Athlon. I do plan on getting an Athlon here in the near future, but I just didn't want to take a gamble. A buddy of mine had looked at scopes as well. He's getting into long-range precision just like me. And he actually brought his Steiner over to the house. I got a chance to look at it, look through it, review the functionality, and I really just fell in love with the scope. I'm going to do a really quick shout out, and I don't, these guys didn't ask me to do this, but I'm going to give a quick shout out to Cameraland. Okay, it's cameralandny.com. I talked to 2 guys there, Joel and Doug, and they are typical New Yorkers. Loved them. They just wanted to get the job done. They wanted to get me the scope I wanted. They were extremely easy to work with. I ordered this thing on Monday. Doug said, I will ship it out today and you'll have it at your doorstep on Wednesday. And he was true to his word. They matched the price from another online optics company. And they're just awesome guys to work with. So, give those guys a shot, if you will. And let's go ahead and unbox this baby. So this again is the T5XI. They packed it very well, by the way. It had the huge bubble wrap all around it. So when I'm opening up the box, I'm seeing 2 batteries. These look like they're a little different. They're not your 2032 batteries. They're a little bigger than that. We have a lens cleaning cloth in here. Looks like a Steiner emblem. And then the manual We'll put that over here. Let's take off this top. I'm going to tell you as I go through this scope, one of the, well, a bunch of reasons why I got it. But let's go through some basic stuff right off the bat. Scope. It's a beautiful scope, right? We're going to get to that in just a second. What comes with the scope? You get a sunshade with the scope. On other scopes, this sunshade is from $25 to $65. Comes with the scope. What else comes with the scope? An aluminum throw lever. Other scopes, no. They either have it built in and it's a little crappy nub, or you have to buy a throw lever from anywhere from $49 to $250, depending on what scope you buy, thrown in to the price of this. What else comes with it? Flip-up caps. And these aren't, you know, these don't look like they're too shabby. They're not great, but for what I'm going to be using this thing for, this is all I need, right? I'm not getting into super fast flip-up scope cap needs. I'm going to lift up my scope caps, I'm going to do my shooting, and then I'm going to close them. So for me, the value that you get here is, gosh, anywhere from $120 to $300 worth of accessories that come with this scope. And that's pretty darn good. Now, let's look at the scope itself. Well, here's the scope mounted on my Bergara B14 BMP rifle. And I just wanted to kind of go through everything really quickly. So I told you, you know, we've got the flip-up caps on it. So there they are. I did not install the sunshade, but it would go on there with the lens cap. I do have the leveler installed and the throw switch right here. So that's all some pretty nice stuff. What I wanted to show you though was, I know there's been a lot of videos on this, but I want to show you these turrets because these turrets are one of the main reasons why I bought this thing. So if you look at this, right now we're at 0. Now I will tell you that the actual 0 on this scope is -4. You cannot change that. That is just the way it is. And the reason they do that is so if you have to shoot a close-in target, you have enough drop in elevation that you can at least come down 4 mils. So, or 4/10 of a mil. So here we are at 0, but the reason I love these turrets is watch. As we turn, we're at 4, we're at 7, we're at 9, watch, we're at 10, we're at 11, now we're at 12, now we're at 13, 14. The turret changes, so I'm not having to read multiple little levels here or etches to see which rotation I'm on. So, I mean, I just love that. Look, this thing is tactile. There's nothing wrong with the turrets as far as the tactileness of them goes. You can hear it. A little mushy on the windage, but it's nothing big, right? So I just wanted to kind of show you that as you saw earlier that I kind of looked at here is let's just kind of see if my camera will zoom. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We have on off in between the illumination, and we have our 50 to infinity parallax. Okay, so that's really it. It's a gorgeous scope. It's built really well. It's the, you know, we've got a 56 millimeter objective. Everything on the tube is just beautifully done. The throw switch really makes it nice, and this comes with it. We do have the locking focus, so once I focus this down, I just lock this focus in there, and we're good to go. So that's the scope mounted, and now we'll take a look through the reticle outside. So
So there's 5. Let's zoom in. That's 8, 12. That's about 18. And now we're at 25. Now, I don't have the illumination on. Let me put the illumination on the highest setting. It's a very clear picture. I love the reticle. It is a first focal plane. So that means as you zoom in, the reticle gets bigger, right? Which is really nice to have. And there we go. There's the scope, there's the reticle.
Well, here's the final build, folks. The Bergara B14 BMP. I've got the Steiner scope on it. I've taken you through everything that I could go through as far as why I got this rifle. There is nothing in the chamber, so please don't comment on that. Trust me, there's not. The scope is mounted. I got the muzzle brake I was telling you about, pretty simple muzzle brake, but it really does a good job. And I'll put that in the comments about which muzzle brake that is. But there we are, there's the rifle. I've already shot it. It shoots like a dream. I have some targets here with some half MOA at 100 yards, so I'm pretty happy with the end product. Next is taking it to a match and shooting it for real. Thanks for watching, everyone.